run the 50 BT Racing Pure Stock for BT Racing at Flamborough Speedway. This is ONTrack Weekly. What's new, Cam?
It is Cam K here with you on G-Force TV for ONTrack Weekly. And you know what? We'll start off with the show tonight. First off, thanks to Mac Ingram, our featured driver for today's episode. And thank you, Mac, for that amazing intro. And again, if you want to provide an intro, definitely you can do it. Just a couple seconds telling us who you are, the car that you drive, division that you're at, where you're from, some of your sponsors, and you can send that to me, and you'll be one of the intro drivers that we'll have on rotation here. We have a couple of different names, including Ben McPherson, Jordan Owen, Mac, Connor Ellis, Donovan Price, Morgan Moore, Chris Allard, to name a few, but we could definitely use more. We appreciate anybody that's submitting some. Chase Stevenson actually has done one. We've had a couple of names that said they were going to submit one, and we haven't seen them yet. So it doesn't have to be long, just a couple of seconds, and get yourself out there. And if you are unaware as well, recently this past weekend we have now created a Facebook page, and this is going to be useful for our stories throughout the week, weekends, off-season questions and topics, and posts, graphics, posted some standings on the page this past week and some news, and that's what hoping it'll become, is a very, very similar approach to J-Ski, hopefully, and we want to definitely get week-to-week updates and talk about the moves taking place and stuff that's happened. And on tonight's show, we'll be going over the best comebacks from 2024 this year. Get some of the responses that we got from there. Take a look at some of the news that we got over the past couple of days in terms of some racers that are confirming where they're going to race in 2025. And then, of course, I definitely want to do some shout outs this week as well, just for some great work that some racers have been doing out with their community. But first, let's just take a quick look here at ONTrack Weekly. You can find it on Facebook, ONTrack Weekly, just through the name and the logo there. If you can like it or follow it, that would just help me out greatly. Help us as continue to try and build the brand here. Of course, this is ONTrack Weekly, the show, and of course, hopefully an online presence as well. Talking about Ontario short track racing of the major variety. And one of my favorite photos that I took this year was getting to see the Pro Challenge racers out at Flamborough Speedway. I haven't got a chance to do many interviews with the drivers of the Pro Challenge, but I will say that they are a great group of racers, and a lot of fun actually watching those races. Really cool little cars, and I was really entertained. I hope we could see them at a couple other racetracks. I know that they're faithful more or less to Flamborough Speedway, but I know I think they did a race at Full Throttle as well, and we can get a couple more of those racetracks out there. I think they do really well at Sauble. I think they're a great type of car for that. But yeah, I'm really entertained by these. I love the body styles of them. They got car styles from the past, car styles of current day. And some of them are just really really well put together. Very good looking race cars. So, um, but it's exciting to have the opportunity to get to promote Ontario Motorsports here on G-Force TV, and so that's why we really appreciate any sort of support that you give to the channel by subscribing, following along with G-Force TV. Obviously, Clinton and Adams they have their show tomorrow, and then of course our weekly racing at Oshweekend Speedway. If you haven't already, they did have the banquet from Oshweekend Speedway up on the channel as well, so that is available in the live streams. We had some news actually to talk about. Let's get some of that up. And just some clarifications on where drivers are going for 2024. If you take a look here, we got Wally Wilson Racing. They had made the announcement today that they're very excited that they are going to return to the Sunset Modifieds in 2025. This is really exciting stuff, I think, for the Sunset Modified division especially. And this is just a generalization for Modifieds. Last year was a really tough year for the Modified division across the board, Touring and the Oscar Modifieds, the Just Foment Modifieds, OMRS, and the Sunset Mods. But if we can get some more big names coming in and making the jump back to a Modified, I say back because, some would take it as a lower step division, but I really find that the Modified racing is phenomenal. And we don't know yet where Amanda Balson is going to head out, but if she's going to be part of Oscar or she's going to run Sunset. I don't believe that was announced when they'd post that they have a Modified, but all of a sudden now we're adding some bigger names into this. Now, obviously, last year, TJ Edwards was the king of the Modifieds. He is not going to be the king of the Modifieds in 2025. In fact, he won't be a part of the Modifieds at all. He is going to the Ontario Outlaw Super Late Models in 2025. And that all of a sudden now makes for a big opening as to who's going to take over. I think Amanda Balson is definitely ready to kind of jump into that position as the veteran leader in the Modified division, but you never know how things would go. We know Wally Wilson had a wicked season last year. I mean, he still had some minor struggles, but this is exciting news for him and the Fireplace and Patio Shop team and the HaveOne.com team. Wally has been the guy I think most people recognize with the Modifieds as of late. He's been in it for such a long period of time and is finally starting to see kind of the success that he well deserves for putting in so much effort in being a part of the Legend Car series for quite a long period of time. So Wally will be I would assume he's going to do more than just the Sunset mods and do both, but at least he has confirmed now that he will be a part of this division going forward. Not the only one to make confirmation on where he is heading for 2025, as Brady Cox has also announced and confirmed that he is going to be going to the beach in 2025 and being a part of the Epic Racewear Bone Stock division, which is great to see. Brady has kind of been all over the place in the past couple of years. He's raced, I think, primarily Flamborough Speedway and Full Throttle have been the two places that Brady has been a part of. You see him typically in the Autumn Colors Classic weekend. He's normally being a participant. He was a participant again in that weekend this past year. So we have confirmations on two new faces moving to different places, or at least returning in 2025. And for Brady, what this does very well, and this is one of the things that we've talked about on the show before, is it adds a little bit more oomph to the epic race where bone stocks. I think one of the things that they're hoping for is to have if they can have a 10 to 12 full-time entry bone stock division. I think that's a very comfortable number for them. They've got some names that still will confirm where they're headed, and I'm of the belief right now, based on rumblings, there's a lot of interest and potential traveling and participating in the special events that they're going to have at Sauble Speedway. And our friend Rich Schwartzenberg was out there with Only Fours, as was Graydon Bunn of Stickers and Scuffs, and it is there was some stuff that came out as Only Fours was a part of the meeting and interviewed Brad Holmes, the general manager. But we take a look here. I want you guys to get all over to Only Fours. Now, this is primarily is your bone stock coverage, bone stock, pure stock, but they could definitely use more likes and follows for your 4-cylinder asphalt racing. And our buddy Rich does a great job with this page. And let's just take a quick look at some of the changes he mentioned about Sauble. Boss of the Beach will be moved off Labor Day weekend, and Dash for Cash may or may not fall on a Wednesday. Some tech stuff. Sauble Speed will not allow any rear camber, 225 max of tires. Right front tire will not be allowed to extend past the scrub rail. Some considerations will be made to add weight to multiple feature-winning cars. But this is the key thing here. There is a potential to start the season as early as May 2-4 weekend, and the season will once again be 10 to 12 races in length. It was also announced that Phil Givens will be tech director for the bone stock divisions. So stuff came out of the meeting. I can understand people like or people dislike some of that news that goes out there. But that is a part of trying to make success for the tracks. I definitely want to thank Rich for his efforts in trying to build the bone stock, pure stock coverage, especially in Ontario. As much coverage as we can give to racers, the better. And it was very evident that there are people really excited about going to the beach this year. Sauble Speedway is making the changes that they feel that they need to make. It does still open up a lot of questions as to what else is going to be part of the divisions next year. United 8s, Pro Lates, Junior Lates, Legends. I think you're going to see all of those back in some capacity. Not sure fully yet what the capacity is. I love the idea, though, of opening a little bit earlier. And I'll tell you what. Sauble is one of those tracks that has had, like Peterborough last year, they got, for the most part, if they were not impacted by rain, they got the whole event in. And that's the thing. The key word is if they were not impacted by rain. Having that extra room is going to give Brad Holmes a lot more wiggle room to play with. As a general manager now, he can move stuff around if stuff gets canceled. And what could very well happen is that you will actually get your 10 to 12 weeks. You're not going to have any missed opportunities by opening up a little bit earlier. Just gives you that extra bit of time. And not only that, it puts you on par with the other racetracks. I think one of the hard parts about Grand Bend right now is their scheduling is kind of iffy. It's 1 week they're on, 1 week they're off, and not a lot of people are familiar with that. And I'm hoping that they all see, every track sees a bit of an increase in 2025. I can't really say that that's going to happen as of right now. I mean, early talk, there seems to be just a lot of it. whether or not people are actually moving on, retiring. We got a couple retirements, but not a huge amount. I think what will just end up happening is we will have racers that will just not run if the finances are not there. And at the kind of on the onset of the season starting, we'll have a much better idea as to who will be around and who won't. You will always see people come in and people will leave, and that's part of racing. I think though actively right now, Sabel is really trying to navigate through a bit of a change, and not just in their leadership and not just in what they've dealt with for the past couple of seasons, but the racing landscape as a whole is going to be changing. The more and more that we go in and have to battle with, honestly, weather being a lot of it. I also think it's shrinking fan bases, and that's why we are here to continue to promote racing in the off season. Why it's important that we share uh, our conversation. Why we bring people to the racetrack. A perfect example is the racer that is on the screen right now, Mac Ingram. He was a fan and got into karting, and then got this opportunity with BT Racing, and is going to have a continued opportunity in 2025. It can be that simple. My co-host on Stickers and Scuffs, Graydon Bunn, was not racing when we started 4 years ago, and now he's had an opportunity to race an event for the last 3 years out of four. So it is really easy to get into it. I think the hard part is staying in it. And obviously we want people to be a part of the racing community. That's the truth. It is. I'm realizing that there was a bunch of comments in um the chat feature actually crapped out a bit. So I'm just seeing them now, so I apologize. Um, I'm just saying I would love to run some more bone stock races if things work out. Wally basically will run anything with wheels. Brad Lavelle says, wonder if Rich is going to come to Pedro meeting on December 8th. My understanding, Brad, is Rich is planning on going to every track meeting to try and, I mean, he's trying to promote bone stock racing for the province, and um, I'm seeing the pattern here that divisions that need a bit more coverage are those entry level ones. I mean, everybody knows that the racing community needs as much coverage as possible all off season long, all during the season, and we're here to bring that to you. But it's especially crucial for those entry level, because that's when a lot of people bring a lot of partnerships that are family friends, that are businesses that are close to them, that maybe have never been involved in motorsports before but are helping out a friend. But this is the opportunity, this is the time to get people hooked, get them the attention that they need, and getting it at that level is really important. A lot of the times the businesses that are involved at the higher level, they've got significant investment involved in it. So you got to get the guys that are coming into the series with the junior lates, with the bone stocks. And this will be interesting because we talk about all the names that we know. There's always going to be some people that'll show up that we don't know who they are, that are going to get started in a business or in the racing business, and all of a sudden could end up being the next Mike Schmidt or the next Quickwick or a huge player in the market. And that's what we need to continue doing. We need to continue to make it attractive for businesses to become a part of things. If you look all the way down the line, you have 1,000 racing series that partnerships could go to, a lot of different sports they could go to, a lot of different venues that they could go to. So you have to make the process as simple, and the reward even sweeter than what anything else is being offered. That's what we have. What was really surprising to me is the lack of support for businesses. I don't want to say support is probably the wrong word, but the lack of maybe effort in some of the racing series and some of the tracks on their websites. And I was really surprised at this, that you have businesses that are spending money to be a part of the series, but they're not featured. They don't have their logo featured. They don't have a link to their website featured. This needs to be addressed. We have to have, especially racetracks, you've got to have those businesses up there, and not just have them up there, but their current logo, their current website, current information. Have your drivers' names spelled right. It's these small things that will make a big difference. And the reason I bring this up is I had a driver a couple of seasons ago in NASCAR. I had multiple drivers actually in a couple of seasons ago come to me regarding their representation on the website. And one of the drivers had said that, you know, I'm spending all of this money, and my partner goes and asks, you know, where are you on the website? We want to see our car, and we want to see our company featured on your profile. Well, they didn't have one for him. They didn't have one all season. It might not seem like a big deal, but businesses, even as small as a podcast like us, so we have people that we invested in. We have partners as well, and it's been a learning experience to see from the other side where your money goes, and learning how to approach stuff. It is extremely important that if you've got companies coming in, that they're promoted through and through. Website, social media, any type of post. Videos, interviews. Honestly, you think about NASCAR. NASCAR actually does do a great job with that on the Xfinity side. The drivers are constantly talking about how fast their car was as fast as Xfinity Internet. It's something small like that. I mean, Coca-Cola Racing Family used to have it where the drivers would have to they'd have to try and make sure they were drinking a Coke on air. And, you know, you want to make sure. I understand that there's some stuff with NASCAR now where they don't mention the sponsor names as much as they used to. If you go back to the old broadcasts, they used to talk about it a lot with the race names and the cars and everything. That's not the case so much anymore. And the hope would be that on the website for the series, the track, that everything's kind of clearly spelled out. Who's the partner for the series or the division? Have their logo current logo up to date, as big as possible, and not blurry. I understand it's not always the easiest thing to do that, but it's the small things. And there's a lot of talented people out there that know how to, like a perfect example would be Phil, my buddy Phil. I mean, he could redo logos, like no one's business. And if you're able to to make it as brutally clear what your division is, who are the main people presenting it, because they're the ones that pay the bills. And we've seen it time and time again. We complain about it time and time again. You got to do stuff for the partners. And that is not just on the racers. It's on everybody. I want to make sure that we also give major props to some people in the racing community once again. Not just for performance at the racetrack and being a part of it, but small stuff, small stuff, I'll say, like community outreach. Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world. There's a lot of time that you got to spend. You got to put stuff together. You've got to spend, basically, as it is, you have to dedicate time to helping out your community. And I'll give a great big props to Shenanigans Motorsports at Sunset Speedway. Out at Foodland Stroud, once again, you see them. You got their junior late out here working for the food bank, trying to get donations. There's Morgan is right there. They're giving away $1,000 gift card. And this is the type of community outreach that you need to do. Not just thanking your partners. That's one thing. But being able to thank the community and especially be a part of it is so important. Sure. They fell a little bit short of what their goal was. But this is the type of stuff they need to do. They were then a part of the Santa Claus Parade in Innisfil, repping Sunset Speedway as well. And that's, again, community outreach is so important. I saw SKLD Motorsports. They were a part of theirs. Joe Kicks and Rob Wollaston for Just for Kicks Racing out at Delaware. They were also part of the Santa Claus Parade for their community. And then we've got Keaton Pipe from the Ontario Legend Car Series. Once again participating in a amazing charitable effort in the sim racing for kids at the Canadian Motorsports Academy. If you don't know Keaton and the team that he has behind him, this is just like what I was talking about with Shenanigans. Very consistent in terms of putting on stuff for the community. There was a lot that a 14-year-old, 15-year-old would rather do than be out doing stuff for the community. But they do stuff on a regular basis. Like it is actually amazing to me how much that they do. One of my favorite posts this year was this one that they had on November 19th last week. So they were at Schlegel Villages, the village of Taunton Mills, and he's showing long-term care facility residents, sim racing. This is amazing stuff. How this is not more people don't know about this is really quite remarkable. Look at this. That's so cool. Amazing. supporting the community as young reps for racing is exactly what we want to see. This is Keaton and Morgan and their respective teams have done a phenomenal job showcasing not just racers, but what they can do for their community. Now, we get to this next part of the show, which is our kind of weekly topic. So we throw it out there, and weekly content, weekly stuff that we talk about. And this week it was comebacks. Now, in 2024, there was a lot of racers that did amazing things, that showcased their talents, that came back from unimaginable odds. Now, some of the comments in here maybe missed the mark a little bit in terms of what a comeback is. In my mind, a comeback is coming back from adversity, extreme adversity. You can't really have a comeback if you're experiencing something for the first time, in my opinion. Now, there was a couple of race day situations this year that we saw that were, really indicative of people not giving up and doing something so incredibly well that it was pretty easy to put them on this list. A couple of names to start off with for myself. Chase Stevenson out of Peterborough Speedway. This is a single race performance. Had been having a terrible season. It had DQs, mechanical problems for like the last couple of weeks. He makes the trip to Sunset Speedway, and it's a big 3 event. He's got Landon Sellers, Lila Sigma, Caden Beatty. I think Brody Coates was there as well. All from Peterborough Speedway that have joined the regular Sunset field with Josh Davenport, Keegan Moat, Morgan Moore, Rylan Camrath, the Struck Boys. And he has a problem right off the start. He has to pull in during his heat race because he's got mechanical problems again. Right at the start of the race, he gets turned and gets spun and has to start from the back. Starts from the back, makes his way up through the field. And I have to remember, the junior late model races are not very long. Most weeks you're looking at 15 laps, 20 laps. I think this was an extended. I think this was 25. And so Chase starts from the back and makes his way through the field by about halfway. There's like a lot of cautions, unfortunately. So he makes his way up there, and then all of a sudden he's flying through the field. And this was actually a week that Josh Davenport was not there. He was racing at Sauble because they were doing the weekend deal, and this was not for points. This was a non-points event. And Chase finds himself behind actually his mentor, which was somebody that's helped him out quite a bit. And he finds his way into second place. He's behind Keegan, who's taught him a lot of great stuff on how to race these cars, and unfortunately makes contact with Keegan. I think Keegan came down off of turn 2 and they made contact, and the 52 spins, and unfortunately is damaged and can't continue. So now Chase is at the front of the field and he pulls off a win. After getting spun, having mechanical problems, starting at the back, making contact with his good friend. And to be there for a kid's first win after the season that he had was remarkable. To see the relief first off. The first thing the kid says when he comes out of the roof hatch is he says, "Finally." And then he goes on after that and wins at Autumn Colors and gets arguably one of the biggest trophies in junior late model. It's a great story. Chris Allard, midway through the season, he's leading the point standings out at Sunset Speedway in the bone stock division, has a devastating injury after being hit on his motorcycle. And I mean, we're talking both ankles, ACL, I think it's PCL on both legs, perhaps knee issues. And he missed one weekend. And it was I believe that was a non-points race as well, or you may have had Jacob Booth in that car for that weekend. Chris comes and win. I mean, he's there for the Flying Frank, and he gets the win. And Calvin Reeser, who finished second, is helping pull Chris out of the car because Chris cannot move his legs. Was not expected to be able to finish, but that man, holy jumping, he was able to finish and won the championship. Corey McAllister, same thing. McAllister had a really terrible wreck. In terms of if you look back at it, it didn't look as bad, but just the way that he hit caused basically to break his back. And while he breaks his back, he's leading the championship in the Ontario Sportsman Series and is all of a sudden not able to run. We're only halfway, I think it was 4 races into the season. And now all of a sudden it's what does he do? Well, he goes up really quickly. He signs Lane Zardo to drive the Pro Late. He signs Connor James to take over and do half the season. And after all of that anguish and not knowing if he was ever going to race again, not knowing if he was going to run again, he came out and he ran in the finale and he finished second. By far the biggest comeback was Steve McCaw. If you know Steve's story, and people know it very well, it was an almost fatal season for him. And he came back, and he not just came back, but he won at the track that happened. He won at Delaware Speedway. Not a dry eye in the house. And it's pretty hard to beat somebody that really has been given a second opportunity at life. And it really was an amazing comeback story. On the dirt, Steve Conway, he had health issues of that degree, pretty serious health issues. He had cars explode. He had cars break. He had cars wreck. Almost every week out at the Big O. Goes to Buxton, wins the championship this year in the mini stocks. Multiple wins. A dream season. Comebacks are definitely something that we see in racing, and that's just the stuff that I was talking about. We have plenty more that people wanted to provide us. Let's take a look at some of those comments. So Ashley McMartin mentions that Carol Dawson really pulled out her all. Okay, I think I pulled it off in her final season. Very proud how she finished this year. And yet, Carol Dawson officially retiring from motorsports. I'm sure she'll still be around for sure. Nathan Detweiler says Austin Etzel comeback in the bone stocks at Sauble Speedway, starting at the back after coming off the track near the end of the race, and a last lap pass on Mike Etzel for second place. It's not an easy thing to do. Come from last and make your way back up into second. Now, Obviously, Austin Etzel did very well this year, winning the championship in the bone stock division out at Full Throttle Motor Speedway. Mike Etzel is no slouch that he had to pass. Coming back and getting that second place, very big. Andy says Josh Stoddy's APC season. He started out nearly, if not last in the points, and made one heck of a points comeback by the end of the season. Pops Campbell says Andrew Gressel at the Autumn Colors Pro Lates, after he got wrecked into the wall, he picked up the big win. Absolutely. Austin, Andrew Gressel was, wow. Andrew Gressel was, I thought, out of it. He was stuck up against the wall, pounded the outside of the wall. They got that car in. They fixed it. He was good to go, and by the second half of the race, he was up front once again and really uncontested. Derek Clark says, can anyone match Steve McCaw comeback of last year? I mean, it's the ultimate comeback. Absolutely not. No one could beat that. Mike Nelson at the Autumn Colors Classic. I definitely agree with this one. Mike Nelson had to go through the last chance qualifier and rode his way through the entire field, even after being involved in a major accident at the beginning of the race when Wyatt Sutcliffe made contact. And Mike Nelson was still able to drive his way up to the top 5 in an incredible drive. And I hope that we get to see Mike Nelson actually do the mini stocks next year at Peterborough full time. That would be fun. Matt Young says, from a suspended for a year to winning the championship, not bad. Obviously, suspension is one thing I don't like to hear, but the fact that you got back out there and won the championship, hey, that's a comeback if you've ever seen one, from not racing for a season to going back and winning the title. Gord says Austin Janet hands down worked his ass off all winter. He poured money into the car, and the racing gods ended the dream 3 laps into practice. He looked at the options, including quitting and the available resources. After taking a bit of time, he stepped back a division and started out back in the bone stock. By the end of the summer, he was running up consistently at the front and loving racing again despite some gremlins and issues, but he kept digging. In fact, getting 2 wins. Ashley once again says, secondly, Alex Delaire, rookie extraordinaire. The kid showed up, watched, learned, and the man came out a clean rocket. He was a pleasant surprise both on and off the track. Corey Horn says, Alex Delaire, he started off learning and slow at the beginning of the season, and by the end he was fast and close on getting some wins. An amazing rookie season for him. He will be strong next season. Sam definitely has my vote on this one. Rebuilding. Dale Shaw rebuilding his car that was demolished at Delaware with that accident with Jesse Kennedy. And then he came back and he won at Sunset once again. I believe it was once again, like Dale Shaw surprises. And you can never really count out. All 3 Shaws got big wins this year. Not too shabby of a year by all. Dave Evison also mentions a great option here. Got to mention Trevor Thompson and victory in his comeback race at Flamborough after the big wreck and injuries on the front stretch at Delaware earlier in the year. Again, Trevor Thompson, somebody that's kind of a silent name that you don't really hear a lot of, but has routinely been somebody that runs up front. To see him come back from that injury, and of course the demolished 00 to win at Flamborough was definitely something to behold. Tyler McMurder says James Townsend and Mike Nelson at the Autumn Colors Classic, and you can't disagree with either one of those. Wally, Sierra, Tracy say Steve McCaw for sure. And Wally Wilson is Ken McCormick's choice. First 2 victories this year in the mods. And you know what? Wally would definitely be up there as a comeback for sure. After he had a really close year last year, had opportunities, he got up front, he led a couple of races, but just wasn't able to hold it. This time around, he was able to pick up 2 victories, one at Sunset, one at Peterborough, and I think Wally is in store for some more for next year. Xander Bryson says, Tyler Hahn, from leading the Peterborough race by 3/4 of a track to having a wreck in the back of the field, ended up debris on both rear tires, resulting him to roll through the infield pits. Yes, 2 flat tires. Got 2 tires changed with completely wrong stagger, going from the back to finishing 5th in 3 laps. Then at Autumn Colors Classic, getting stuffed into the outside wall and having a bunch of stuff bent, including 1.5-inch toe out and a smashed up race car to come home with the championship, as well as a 5th place finish. You can't really deny that some of these amazing efforts put on by racers and their teams are what it is about. Seeing racers pull off really kind of things that you would think is not possible. And week in and week out, the racing community is going to be asked questions. They're going to be asked by myself. We're going to pose that out there. What's your answer to this? Who is this? Who reminds you of that? It's important to get these stories out. It's important to get people aware of what's going on in the racing community. We want to get people known. And some of these great efforts, these great stories are who we want to shout out, who we want to showcase in the racing community. I know week to week, and especially in this time of the year, it gets to be tough to tune in and week out. So I appreciate anybody that does stick in and become a part of the show. It's really been, a tough couple of weeks for ONTrack Weekly in terms of viewership, and I understand that it is a tough time of the year for people. There's a lot on people's minds. It's a lot to do prior to the end of the season, and I think a lot of people just need a break from racing. But you know what? When you're ready to come back, we'll be here. We've got a lot of conversation to have this off season. I think we'll be continuing to try and have some guests. That's the one thing that we're looking at probably for the new year, to get people hyped up a little bit. Stickers and Scuff's going to continue going for the foreseeable future as well. I'm not going to stop that for right now either. But if you can, go out there and continue to be pushing the racing community. Simple posts, even if it's just a picture from last year, video from last year. Thank yous to your partners. Thank yous to your competitors or your tracks. That stuff goes a long way. I know one thing that we tend to do, and this is very evident, it's very evident right now, is we tend to go quiet in the off season. We tend not to talk and post. We tend not to mention stuff about racing, but you kind of have to. We need it to be put out there as much as possible. And yeah, it is good once in a while. Take your breaks and from social media and be with family for sure. I mean, that's going to be the very key thing over these next couple weeks, because everybody knows this time of the year is extremely tough for people. Mentally, it tends to get really tough towards the end of the year and into the Christmas holidays. So for us right now, we are planning on trying to be throughout December. We'll have to see though, depending on viewership, whether it's the right call or not. We can always pick back up in the new year, but there's a lot of stuff that we're going to make sure we cover. News that's coming out of those driver meetings, drivers going to different places, new divisions, new rules, changes. We're going to expect to see a lot of that. One thing that we have yet to see so far is schedules, and we would expect those to be pretty soon. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, last year, or maybe 2 years ago, it was 2023. Yeah, so last year, we already had the Ontario Sportsman Series schedule out. So there's a lot that will be coming out eventually in I would think the next month. Um, then we can really start focusing on 2025. We can just think about where people are going to go, what people are going to do. I think a lot of people still want to figure out what's going to happen with certain racetracks and certain divisions. Touring is in for a bit of a tough year, I think. Just based off of the conversations I've had with a lot of people that have been part of touring divisions. A lot of people are very tired, um, trying to save a little bit of money, would rather stick closer to home. There's a lot of people that still love traveling, but we're starting to see the wear and tear of those that have been doing it for a couple of years. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to have to pay attention to in 2025 is whether or not that's going to be the right call going forward. And you know what, we'll have to see. But if you've tuned in for the rest of the whole show, I want to thank you because we really have kind of struggled to have people tune in for the last couple of weeks. And um, you know, as somebody that puts on content, it can be very uh, debilitating. It can be, if you're putting out content and no one is watching, no one's listening. It makes you wonder whether you want to keep doing it. And we're not going to give up though. We're going to keep pushing on this because this is important. It's something we care about, but it's also indicative of a major issue, and that is we kind of have to have audiences. We have to continue to grow it bigger and bigger. And here on GeForce TV is the way to go. You're going to have Adam Ross, Clinton Jeffrey all off season long, myself all off season long, but then you can also go back and rewatch all your weekend broadcasts from last year. Autumn Colors Classic, you can go back and watch that. Hell, you can go back and watch races from 2020 here on GeForce TV. One of the best things about it is that you can go back and rewatch all those broadcasts. I've done it myself. You've got countless amounts of racing that are here as a part of GeForce TV. Now, if you want to get involved with GeForce TV, definitely reach out to myself. You know, if you want to partner with the series and partner with race car drivers, let me know as well. We've got lots of names that we could put you into contact with. And racetracks, I always want to give them a lot of love too. They tend to get forgotten about. A lot of people tend to go with the drivers, but the racetracks can definitely use a lot of support as well. And the racing series, like I said, next year it'll be very interesting to see where things go. I'm hopeful to put in a couple of weeks of solid work towards some racetracks and helping out wherever I can. I'd love to help tracks with their websites. I'm not a expert by any means, but if you want someone that's going to put in, if I'm going to put in an effort, I want to make sure that we're helping here, not hurting. And that's the big thing I think I want people to remember is that, you know, hey, racing season is not that far away. We have to remember something. We're heading to December now, 5 days away from December, and that means that 2025 is right around the corner. So we're closer than we were a couple of months ago to the start of the season. So it's exciting that we can definitely look forward to that, and we're going to try and have, like I said, a couple of guests at least on the show. Trying this live format can be a little bit tough as well with one singular host. I know it takes a while to get your reputation built up and people to know you. Adam Ross and Clinton Jeffrey are just absolutely amazing mentors, and I'm so privileged to be a part of this show, and Spencer helping me out with getting the show live every week, simulcast on Facebook and YouTube. That is our premiere though, is Facebook. That's where a lot of our comments come in, and a lot of our viewership as well. But if you can, get out there and support ONTrack Weekly. We've got our new Facebook page. Support GeForce TV. Subscribe to the channel. Like, if you haven't subscribed to GeForce TV, we are sitting at 19,400 subscribers. Let's get to at least 19,500 by the end of the year. That's only a 100 amount. We can do that. We've got 7 likes currently on our YouTube. Can try and get that up to 10. That would be great. We got only 6. Let's try and get that to 10 on our Facebook. That would be helpful as well. Try and get as much people to tune in. But I did want to get to this message because Dave Evison did send me a message. Because he made sure to mention that Dave Evison and Evison Motorsports walked the St. Mary's Santa Claus Parade and gave out hats. Oof. Wow. They also donated $1,000 to Comfort Bears and the Dutton Daffodil Society for the Christmas food and toy drive. Money was raised through hat and t-shirt sales. Dave Evison and Evison Motorsports, you guys are absolute champs, and we thank you for all you do for the racing community. Dave Evison, Evison Motorsports. Support them. They're actually heading over to Flamborough Speedway next year. The number 94 Canadian Vintage Modified after several seasons with the little Chevy and V8 stock at Delaware and in the Oscar Hot Rods. But Dave Evison, thank you for sharing that information with me. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate Mac Ingram being our intro driver this week. Again, feedback from racing community is important. And so if you've got comments, if you've got questions, if you, should we go to 8 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock? That's something else that's, we think about 9 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock. We can look at that and think about possibilities, about trying to make it a little bit easier for people to tune in and to follow. But for those that have tuned in tonight, I just want to say thank you. I know it's always a little bit tough on Mondays to get going and be a part of things. And don't get me wrong, I feel that too. But have yourselves a great night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to ONTrack Weekly on GeForce TV. And we'll catch you all next week as we get ready for December.